Please take your seat. Mindfulness is a way of being present, paying attention to, and accepting what is happening in our lives. It helps us to be aware of and step away from our automatic and habitual reactions to our everyday experience. A warm good morning to one and all gathered here. It's my pleasure to extend a cheerful welcome to you all. Your presence makes us very happy. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome each and everyone present to this workshop on youth mindfulness in higher education for effective participation in governance. At my lowest, God is my hope. At my darkest, God is my light. At my weakest, God is my strength, and at my saddest, God is my comfort. So let us begin today's event with the praise of the most merciful and the most benevolent. For that reason, I would like to invite Dr. Vijay Devanesan, Assistant Professor, for the opening prayer.
Shall we all rise up for the college prayer? O thou, who in days past didst put it in the hearts of good men to found this college, for the imparting of sound learning, the building of character, and the spread of spiritual truth and knowledge of thyself. Bless our college and schools. May love, unity, and brotherhood be learnt here. May industry, uprightness, and courage grow here. And from this place may there be sent forth continually a stream of men and women who shall serve thee faithfully in thy world. Amen.
Thank you so much, sir, for invoking God's presence in us. Please be seated. Following by this, I would like to invite our department choir for the prayer song. Check, check, check.
Check, 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 check.
Showers of blessing, this is the promise of God. There shall be seasons refreshing, sing from the Savior of God. Showers of blessing, showers of blessing
Thank you for that beautiful prayer song. I believe that any auspicious event is incomplete without Tamil Thai Valtha. Thus, moving forward, I would like to call our department choir again to sing the Tamil Thai Valtha. Also, may I please bother you all to stand up in honor of our state anthem. I request you all to sing along with the choir.
தன்னிடமடந்தை கெளிலொழுகும் சீராரும் வதனமென திகழ் பரத கண்டமிதில் தெக்கனமும் அதிசிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம் வியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே.
Thank you all. Please take your seat. Here's a hearty welcome, big and warm enough to encompass you all. To say we are thrilled and excited to see you is an understatement. Now, I would like to invite our pillar of strength, head of the department, Dr. N. Ansumedraboni, to address the gathering.
Thank you, Krishika. Good morning to one and all present here. Respected Chief Guest, Dr. Pradeep V. Philip, retired IPS officer, former Director General of Police, and founder of EQ Thinking. Beloved Principal, Aberza, heads of the department, faculty members, participants, students from NCC and also outside NCC, and of course my dear colleagues of the department and my dear students of Department of Public Administration. This is the day we are waiting for. After 2 years of topsy-turvy online, offline mode, we are here to face each other, to have a beautiful program, and for which I'm very grateful because we are starting at a very auspicious place, which is the MCC Anderson Hall. I also take this opportunity to thank Rajiv Gandhi National Institute of Youth Development for sponsoring the program for us. I extend my gratitude and welcome to Dr. Pradeep Philip, former DGP and founder of EQ Thinking, for accepting our invitation and also kickstarting this day for us. The 2-day workshop is on youth and mindfulness in higher education for effective participation in governance. So, sir, you will be the impetus for this young generation and young mind. You will truly be an inspiration after hearing your life story. Well, I also take this opportunity to welcome our dear principal, beloved principal, Dr. P. Wilson, for presiding over the function despite his busy schedule and always being very encouraging and supporting despite whatever the matter, he's there for us. A very warm welcome to you, sir. And also a very warm welcome to our dear Birza, who has been very busy and he's passed his wishes to us. A warm welcome to all the participants, and I must say, at this very short time, we received wonderful and an overwhelming response because it was much needed for the students. I think the idea of this workshop is to have a breakthrough in helping the youth, younger generation, to getting back to normalcy, and also learning to live the moment and also to live to the fullest. So this topic is dedicated precisely to the younger generation to come back to what reality is, to bring back to normalcy. We have a set of questionnaires and a lot of process and workshop and activities intended to get your mind rejuvenated and also increase your attention span. I also take this opportunity to welcome and thank my dear colleagues of the Department of Public Administration, who are definitely my strong pillars, Dr. B. Madan Rekha, Dr. Vijay Devnation, Dr. Kalyani, Dr. Milton, and of course the most important person who's the organizing secretary, Dr. Meera Rajiv Kumar, who has been such a strong support for me throughout this period. And I would not be doing justice if I don't thank my dear beloved students of public administration, who is responsible for this entire workshop. I'm very grateful for it. I'm also very thankful, and also it's a very proud moment as a head of the department to have such strong-willed students in my department. God bless Madras Christian College. God bless the Department of Public Administration. I would only end with this. Say, in His name, thou shalt conquer. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for welcoming the gathering. I feel very privileged to invite the respected principal of our great institution. We are all proud of you and your extinguished hard work in the field of education. Now I request our respected principal, Dr. P. Wilson, to deliver the presidential address.
The chief guest for today, Dr. Pradeep V. Philip, a former DGP and the founder of EQ Thinking. Head of the department, Dr. Ansuman Raboni. The organizers of this particular workshop, Dr. Meera, Rajiv Kumar, and Dr. S. Kalyani, and faculty members, students of the Department of Public Administration. It indeed gives me a joy because we are all into offline mode, and we have started, or we have begun to realize the same field that we had earlier before we could start with our online classes. And I know that many of you were fed up with the online mode of education, and some of you enjoyed this online mode of education in a different way. And coming back to normalcy once again is not an easy process because we have been conditioned for 2 years, almost 2 years in one particular mode, and recovery or coming back to the equilibrium is not an easy process because we are all human beings. We also empathize with all your difficulties of sitting in classrooms and listening to the same lectures once again in an offline mode. But we were engaging ourselves during this pandemic period through different activities. I was discussing recently with just before 10 minutes with the chief guest and others that I could see a lot of students started engaging themselves in business or entrepreneurship. And some of them started doing some other courses, or they were engaged in their identity class slowly started shifting. Now we are all coming back to normalcy, and we have to begin our business, regular business of academics. And in this juncture, I am very happy the department has realized and it has made a conscious and strategic effort of bringing students from different departments and trying to learn from them probably, and then making an informed decision on what can we do. I was requesting them if you can give some information on how we can strategize a post-pandemic scenario so that very gradually we can get into the next dispensation, and that would really be appealing to all of you. I also was discussing about the attention span crisis that our students are normally facing. The goldfish is normally supposed to have a less attention span, and it's 9 seconds, and now we have only 10 seconds, which can be evidenced the way you handle your mobile phones and TV. You cannot be in one particular page for more than 8 seconds or more than 4 seconds unless it is engaging. This being the case, how can we engage you for 40 minutes in a classroom where you have to see the same face? Sometimes you have to see the same lecture notes. Okay, so brittle, and sometimes it's very difficult. So it is a challenge for all of us to repurpose ourselves and tune ourselves in resonance with the change that has taken place in you. Having realized this, I think Department of Public Administration has come up with this venture. I wish the department all the best, and I'm sure that out of this particular conference or a workshop, there will be some tangible outcome in terms of some strategies or some white paper or some kind of a stuff that would really help the institution. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, sir, for kind words. Now I request our respected principal, followed by our head of the department, Dr. Ansuman Raboni, to honor and felicitate the chief guest. Thank you all. Now I would like to invite Dr. S. Kalyani, Assistant Professor, to introduce the chief guest.
Good morning, everyone. I deem it a honor and a privilege to introduce the chief guest for this event, Dr. Pradeep V. Philip, IAPS. A former Director General of Police, Tamil Nadu, Dr. Pradeep Philip belongs to the 1987 batch of the IPS. He has held several sensitive posts as SPs of districts, DIG Intelligence, ADGP Economic Offences, and DGP CBCID. In his first posting as ASP Kanchipuram, Dr. Philip, who was on VVIP security duty, was seriously injured in the bomb blast that killed former Prime Minister Shri Rajiv Gandhi. A pioneer of community policing and Queen's Awardee, he is the creator of Economics, first innovative discipline to study excellence. He is the creator of EQ thinking or equilibrium thinking, founder chairman of Friends of Police. A best-selling author, thinker, trainer, public speaker, he has published 4 books with 30 in the pipeline. His magnum opus titled Philippisms is a world record and an Asian record breaking compilation of his own original 3,333 sayings covering A to Z of life. Thank you, sir, for being a part of this program, and I'm sure that you're going to enlighten the youth on mindfulness in higher education for effective participation in governance.
Great morning, everybody. I didn't hear a response. I said, great morning, everybody together, great morning. Respected principal of this amazing institution of learning, the Madras Christian College, Dr. P. Wilson, the convener and head of the department, Dr. N. Ansuman Raboni, the organizing secretary and member of the faculty, Dr. Meera Rajiv Kumar, the chairperson of the organizing committee, Krisheka M., and her colleagues, student coordinators, members of the faculty, all the students attending from the public administration department as well as other departments of the college, as I've been told by the head HOD that there's been interest cutting across departments in this particular topic of mindfulness. I first of all want to compliment the head of the department and her colleagues for choosing a very innovative, rarely thought of combination of disparate subjects: youth, mindfulness, higher education, and governance. And having been involved in governance for the last 34 years, I see the relevance of this topic. And having been young myself, I understand the need for mindfulness for creating a difference in our lives. And having been a thinker about education and created a concept called Economics, which is the world's first subject to study excellence, there is a need to focus education on one lodestone of excellence. If every student in every university, every institution of learning, even from a kindergarten, is focused on excellence, the very purpose of education would be realized. But unfortunately, in my experience over the last 6 decades, I find that it is only an individual here and there who gets focused on excellence. And that is why I thought there is a need to focus our minds on excellence and to create a discipline to study excellence in all its dimensions. If every member of the faculty and every student has a focus on excellence, the very purpose of education, higher education or all education would be fulfilled. And its absence would mean the failure of education. Every human is made for greatness. We are made for greatness. But we have lost that greatness somewhere on the way, historically. And mindfulness is a way to rediscover our potential for greatness. No human is created to be average. We are created in the image of God. That means we reflect the very mind of God, collectively as well as individually. But we have lost it somewhere. Take, for instance, the current Ukraine war. It is the lack of mindfulness of leadership, primarily the Russian leadership. When an autocrat, due to his perceptions of threats to his country, tries to dislodge a sovereign state, a sovereign nation, and try to rewrite history from his perspective, that shows the absence of mindfulness at the global level in governance. Ultimately, governance boils back to self-governance. I do not know whether the organizers of this conference, of this two-day workshop, have thought of it from that perspective, but that is the micro level. The most difficult thing to govern in the universe is not nation states. It is not departments, it's not institutions like this, but it is the governance of self. And as a young student like you, in the year 81, when I was into my first year degree, I said that my mind is the keystone for my development. And therefore, how to leverage on my mind, which includes the intellect, the emotions, and the will to act on thoughts. But unlike the mindfulness that is now talked about around the world, my concept of mindfulness is different. If you rely on human thought, then you have a very fallible basis for your thought process. Therefore, we need to connect our mind with the creator of the entire universe. And therefore, the mind of God is what is higher than our thoughts. His ways are higher than us. His thoughts are much higher than us. And therefore, how to elevate our orbit of thought to that level? This struggle in me to discover that thought process, which would enable me to connect on a continual basis with the image of God in me, led me to the creation of EQ thinking or equilibrium thinking, which is the key to the human mind. It is a key to develop your thoughts. It's a key to develop your emotional intelligence, your spiritual intelligence, and as well as your motivation. I said how to discover a thought process which will keep me on the learning path on a continual basis, so that my mind is put on autopilot. So in the year 81, I began that search. Soul searching, yesterday I thought of this particular concept, is far more vital than brainstorming. And that soul searching to discover a soul pulse, by which I will have my finger on my soul pulse, not just my physical pulse, but my soul pulse, led me to discover in the year 1981 a simple concept: be at it. Be at it. All monosyllables, be at it. Maybe, is the PowerPoint available? It's on. So be at it was born, and immediately I had that aha feeling. Aristotle says excellence is what you do repeatedly. Be at it means that sense of rhythm, of repetition. And therefore, when I gave my CD on EQ thinking to Dr. Abdul Kalam, soon after he was asked to be the president of the country, thank you. He said, your thought process is brilliant. I said, why do you think so? Why do you think it is effective in self-governance? Unless you're effective in self-governance, you cannot be effective in public administration. If you're effective in self, if you can manage yourself, you can manage the whole world. Unfortunately, most of the leaders of this today's world are unable to manage their own inner demons. Yesterday, I asked a question on social media that which is more harmful? Human aggression as in Ukraine or the COVID virus? What is your answer? How many of you say the human aggression factor is more harmful and destructive? And how many of you say it is the biological factor, COVID? One or two have raised their hands for COVID. It is this willful evil. You know, in the guise of self-interest or national interest, to try to dislodge a sovereign government, I think is a more evil. Because what happens as a biological pandemic, one can overcome. But the killing and slaughter of the innocents, people who have nothing to do with these decisions, that is a far more evil thing. And therefore, in governance, we need to build the youth so that they become responsible leaders who will not take such irrational decisions out of a perception of some imagined wrong or a historical wrong or a perception of the need to protect yourself. How can you launch a war for something that you perceive is going to happen in 10 years? And you send millions of citizens of one country fleeing to other countries, uprooted. It is the absence of an effective holistic thought process. So an effective thought process consists of something which will empower your spirit, mind and body. Mind, I told you, consists of intellect, emotions and will. The spiritual aspect is very important. And that is why in my book, you'll find the motif on the cover. This is the spiritual dimension, where there is a magnetism between the spirit, mind and body. The mind has its limitations, but spirit is infinite. Each of you can contain the universe in the span of a thought. Each of my 3,333 Philippisms contain the essence of the universe. Now if I take at random any page, even page 88, in the 22nd Philippism, the strength of the heart is more vital than the strength of the mind or limbs for ultimate and lasting victory in life. For effective governance of yourself, which means it will overflow into public governance too, into management of others. The strength of the heart is more vital than the strength of the mind or limbs. And here it says, the way to grip the mind of man is to first to try and get a hold of his heart. In the 25th Philippism, I say, the rhythm of reason pulsates in every beat of the heart, while the rhyme of faith resonates with every whiff of breath. So I was trying to create a thought process by which, by every breath, I connect with my better self, a better version of myself than the previous moment. And that led me to create Be At It. 13 years of meditation on Be At It led me to come out with the next dimension, which is Beat It. This is the new dimension. Be At It can be almost equated with positive thinking, but it goes beyond positive thinking too. But Beat It is beating the negative. So equilibrium thinking as a mindfulness thought process has two dimensions. Be at it, be it. That means the positive. And be at it, beat it, which means beating your own negatives. Don't try to beat the negatives of others. You're not responsible for that. You got to beat your own negatives. So Philippism is a philosophy of life by which you transform your positives into even stronger positives, and you convert your negatives into positives through a negative process. What is negative? Your response, what is negative? Positive. So your yeses translate into strengths, and you can strengthen it further through equilibrium thinking, and your no's translate into weaknesses, and you can turn it into a strength through a negative process. Negating the negative. So if you're an angry person, negating the dysfunctional level of anger. If you are a nervous person, negating your extent of fear, your shyness, your diffidence. So you do it not in isolation, but together. So this is the first thought process where you hold two thoughts in your mind at the same time. The plus and the minus thought process. You can change the slides as I'm speaking corresponding with that. I'm not looking at the slides, I'm just speaking off the cuff. So Be At It, Beat It was born in the year 1994 after 13 years of discovering Be At It. And thereafter, I tested it in actual physical governance, in political governance, in policing. And what it did to me was it enabled me to be a resilient person. I suffered the greatest disaster in the earliest part of my career. I once drowned to death in the sea. And as if that was not enough, within a year, I was leading the former Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi when the world's first human bomb or woman bomb exploded. And that would have been enough to knock me insane. But because of this thought process, I bounced back. So Be At It, Beat It enables you to overcome whether the stress of a pandemic or the stress of something more severe or some personal breakdown at your human level. So you can break down at any time, but you need to strengthen your mind. Don't wait for that breakdown. You need to strengthen your mind well ahead. And in my case, well ahead of these things happening, I had this thought process in place. Be at it, beat it. So though I suffered the greatest setback, within a few years or within a year or two, I made a comeback. So when you are continually practicing mindfulness, what happens is you become a creative person. Now today you see the Aam Aadmi Party has won in Punjab. But do you know that this came out of equilibrium thinking? I was the first in the world to speak about VOP, very ordinary person. That Kiran Bedi shrewdly borrowed it without telling me and translated it into Aam Aadmi. That became the name of the new party, Aam Aadmi Party. Even Kejriwal would not be aware of it. Then social justice tea parties. I turned the negative of this double tumbler system in villages of Tamil Nadu into a movement called social justice tea parties that ran for 3-4 years. More than 1 million people had tea, and along with that, they learned equilibrium thinking and other thoughts. Thank you. So, it is a productive thought process. How do you practice it? Everything you do is binary. See, your breathing is binary. You breathe in oxygen, that is Be At It, positive. You breathe out carbon dioxide, is it positive or negative? Is it positive or negative? Some of you can reply. Do you think it's positive or negative? Who said negative? Raise your hand. It is actually negative. Carbon dioxide is negative for you, so it has to be emitted fully, and then only you can breathe in oxygen again. So this is a continuous process. Then that's how I discovered the ATM, anytime motivation, anytime meditation. Unlike yoga, you're going to learn about yoga and various other, mindfulness techniques, practices in the course of these 2 days. But how EQ thinking is different is you don't need a guru, you are your own guru. You don't need a psychotherapist or counselor, you are your own counselor. The ATM is within you. The anytime motivation is within you. You just have to awaken it through this thought process. How do you practice it? Just like you breathe in oxygen, you say, be calm, breathe in oxygen. When you beat anger, breathe out anger. So with every thought, you can negate anger and turn it into something powerful. And the swirling of opposites in the human mind leads to creativity, according to Niels Bohr, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist. So it makes you creative. As I told you, that this paradox of the plus plus and minus minus together working in your mind round the clock. Your subconscious will take on this reprogramming. Your subconscious is a biocomputer. The computer works on a binary language. What is that binary language? 0 and 1. Your mind is also a biocomputer. It works on yes, no. So to beat a pandemic stress or whatever, online, offline, whatever it is, any challenge in life, you are ready once you practice the thought process even for 21 days. For want of time, this is a whole day's workshop. I've just explained the essence of it. You can access it on my Facebook page, EQ Thinking Community. You can join it and read the stuff that I've written there. It has helped people overcome breakdowns, nervous breakdowns, anger issues. It has helped people achieve higher levels of success. In VIT, a final year student, he had never met me in my life. And he just saw my website, eqthinking.com. And he applied the thought process to his life. He was facing competitive interviews for campus placement. He was very nervous. But each chairman wrote to the next chairman or the next elimination round, this boy is so good, we must take him into TCS. And he wrote to me later, sir, this is the most powerful weapon of the mind that I've ever found. Because it not only deals with the plus, you reinforce your strengths. You are what you are because of your strengths. You're not what you should be because of your weaknesses. So you rediscover your greatness. Greatness is overcoming your own inner weaknesses. And as you push pulse by pulse, breath by breath, thought by thought, emotion by emotion, your life begins to change. It begins to bloom. The seed is planted deep into your subconscious. And even it will enable you to be more productive. When one company I taught this for half an hour or 1.5 hours, then gave them a CD on equilibrium thinking, their total sales of that sales team of 100 MBAs went up from 4 crores to 32 crores, 800% improvement. And the vice president said this has never been recorded in his entire career, such an improvement, a quantum leap. So micro changes in your subconscious leads to amazing changes in governance, in self-governance, which I told you is the keystone to governance itself. If you learn self-governance, automatically your participation in public administration will be far more effective. You'll be a better leader. You will not take irrational decisions, as I told you many of the leaders of the current world are doing. Leaders are breaking up countries which are united on the ground of religion just to capture power, polarization. This is all due to short-sighted, irrational thought processes. And the youth have to be empowered to overcome such tendencies. And they should see clearly what are the negatives in political trends, in ideologies, and choose for themselves. So even the masses can be deluded, but the youth, the intellectual core of India, which is the hope of the country, should not be deluded. So this is happening across nations. And therefore, when you adopt this thought process, this rhythmic pattern of reprogramming your subconscious, even in your sleep, your body begins to be more relaxed. Some of my thoughts I get while I am sleeping. The subconscious mind never sleeps. So your mind becomes an ATM through equilibrium thinking. So you can practice it with anything binary. This is the first thought process which is binary. It combines 0 and 1, like 0, 1, yes, no. And therefore you can practice it with anything binary, like walking. You go for a walk. One corporate manager, he said, this is too simple, it cannot work. He was a very fastidious guy. He said, let me anyway try it for 20 minutes during my walk in the Anna Nagar Tower Park. And it produced such change in him, as witnessed by his family and others, that he asked me to do a workshop for his top management, a multinational. So it leads to changes in your decision making, improved decision making, your success failure pattern. See, failure is part of our life. Every human has more failures than successes, but they hide their failures. I told you I had failures early in my career. Big failures. But you have to overcome the failure. And that, so EQ thinking not only improves your imagination quotient, your creativity, reduces your stress, transforms your stress into a source of power. It will improve your physical health, your immunity. Now, all through this pandemic, I was exposed to various conditions where even people who were infected came into my room when I was DGP CBCID. But I was not infected too. Of course, it could be a coincidence. But your immunity also develops because there is a discipline called psychoneuroimmunology, which says that how you think affects your immunity. And all of us know when we are stressed, you develop headaches, you develop lack of appetite, and you're not able to give of your best. So eustress, instead of negative stress, you develop a eustress through EQ thinking or equilibrium thinking. It is basically your mind takes a pulse-like pattern, just like your heart works round the clock. How did I discover it? I said, how do I make my monkey brain work like my heart on a consistent pattern? And that led me to first discover be at it, and then 13 years later, beat it. It has been taught to thousands and thousands of young people, youth. So it has been tested with youth, it has been tested with middle-aged people, with aged people also, who are ingrained in negativity. One doctorate in communication, he listened to my CD, and he overcame his anger patterns. So his family members said, what is it, you're no longer angry? He said, no, I have adopted this thought process, I've overcome anger. So it will improve your emotional intelligence, your spiritual intelligence. Now, I have written now 3,333 maxims. This is the largest number of quotes, original quotes, proverbs or sayings, written by any human in all languages. It is 2.5 times the size of the Tirukkural. And I invite you all of you to borrow it from the library. I'll be presenting it to the head of the department. And then you could either get the ebook or the physical copy as you like. And it contains A to Z. The former governor, M.M. Rajendran, says this is, though Dr. Philip doesn't claim it to be an encyclopedia of maxims, it is a veritable encyclopedia of maxims. It covers the alpha to Z of life. From attitudes, your attitudes need to be transformed. How do you change attitudes? Your professor cannot change your attitudes. It is through mindfulness that you can transform your own attitudes. You become your own sculptor. Thought by thought, you sculpt yourself. Many of you do sculpting, body sculpting in gyms. That is less rewarding than this. If you sculpt your inner psyche, thought by thought, emotion by emotion, word by word. Finally, I'll say that it will make you powerful communicators. As one professor of communication very insightfully said, he calls it the law of communication. The secret of great interpersonal communication is good intrapersonal communication. Intrapersonal communication, what you say to yourself while you're sitting there about yourself. You need to tell yourself, I am a great person. Every human is a great person. I need to rediscover that greatness. I lost it somewhere. And my own thoughts, my mindfulness will help me rediscover that greatness. And human life is not meant to dominate others, as certain autocrats, as I told you, are doing, as certain leaders are dividing countries on ground of religion. I say I don't believe in religion, I believe in religion, a new word. You develop new concepts unknown to humanity as you practice EQ thinking. So I challenge each of you to go deeper into EQ thinking, even as you have many menu of options that the department is laying before you in the course of these 2 days, and choose what works best for you. I'm not saying EQ thinking is the only option, but choose whatever is holistic, which will contribute to developing your spirit, your mind, and your body. So even when you're doing exercise, which is binary, every day I do workout in the gym. Every stretching is be at it, that is be calm. Contracting is beat anger, beat fear. Fear leads to wrong, skewed decision making in governance. The fear that NATO missiles will be placed at our doorstep has led to this Ukrainian massacre. Fear, a lack of confidence. Nobody can take away that fear except you yourself. So your own inner demons cannot be managed by anybody else. It has to be managed by you alone. The demons of fear, of greed, of lust, of gluttony, of laziness, all these demons have to be managed by each of us personally. That is the area of self-governance. So I once again thank the management and the head of the department and Dr. Meera, Rajiv Kumar for having invited me here to address you. It has been a great pleasure interacting with so many young minds. I hope that some of these thoughts you will carry home and carry in your heart. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for capturing the event so perfectly. We felt great pleasure to have you on among us on this occasion. You took the festivity of the event to a greater level by your zealous speech to the students. Everyone on and off the stage appreciated your kind thoughts and motivation which you inculcated into the young minds. Thank you so much, sir. Gratitude is a quality similar to electricity. It must be produced, discharged, and used up in order to exist at all. As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. So now I would like to invite Dr. Meera Rajiv Kumar, the program organizing secretary, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Very good morning to all of you present here. Before I deliver the vote of thanks, we can have a small interactive session with our dear chief guest, Dr. Pradeep V. Philip. Any questions from your side, you may please ask, sir. Can one of the volunteers give a mic to the students audio? Yeah. Gibson is having the mic there. Any questions? Sir has given us a very enlightening, motivational talk. Give the mic here, please.
Good morning, sir. You told about equilibrium thinking. Nowadays, most of the students engage with only mobile phones. How to change them into equilibrium thinking?
So that's a very good question. Even your faculty were concerned that obsession with the screen, no? The mobile phones, technology and all that. Yeah, that 2 years, most of the people, their constant companion was their mobile phone. And the mobile phone replaced teachers, parents, friends, because you are also in isolation. But now you have to be weaned away from it. So that screen addiction cannot be broken in a day. But as you practice, be self-controlled, beat addiction. Your thoughts, your mindfulness will not remain in the mind. It will overflow into your action. So at one point you'll say, I'm not going to look. Even I sometimes get addicted to the phone. Then my daughter says, oh, Dad, you spend so much time on the mobile. So as you think about it consciously, it goes into your unconscious thought process. Your brain gets the necessary strength to stop that action, which is not giving you much result. Because if you get obsessed with your phone, you cannot spend much time in useful study or good balanced life. So everything begins with the thoughts. So once you start thinking, be self-controlled, beat addiction to mobile phone or to technology, then it will result in action.
Thank you, sir.
There's a question.
A very good morning, sir. This is Jananishri from Women's Christian College. So do you think you will see the Purushottaman again in your life?
Yeah, she's referring to, when I was injured, lying injured, bleeding, and I was gasping for breath and water because I'd lost a lot of body fluid in Sri Perumbudur, lying in the mud for half an hour after the blast. I was put in the back of a jeep by an inspector whom I had actually upbraided, scolded in the afternoon, for his men were smoking when my ASP's jeep was passing. So that he noted that this officer is there in the front line, he must be injured. He came and picked me up. But he said, sir, I have to go back to pick up so many dead and dying and injured. I could not say yes or no to him. I was half conscious. But a boy, young man I would say, like your age, he climbed into the jeep and he held my head in his lap, blood-stained face. He didn't hesitate to hold. And I was asking for water, he gave me drops of water. So I believe it's a divine, intervention. Because how would he have water? How would he know that he should not give an injured person drops of water? So that led me to actually create Friends of Police concept and launched it and sold it to the Chief Minister Jayalalitha in a single speech, and she accepted it. So, Purushottaman, you are the Purushottaman today. If
It means a lot, sir.
You are listening to me and you are implementing these ideas. You are creating a tribe that will not take a bribe. Then you are the Purushottaman I am looking for today.
Definitely, sir.
That Purushottaman was needed in that hour. Today, another type of Purushottaman is needed. Purushottaman means best man. So when I was 17 years old, I was introduced to the best man in all of history. Who is the best man in all of history? You touch your hearts and think, who is the best man in all of history? In all of history, who is the best ever man or woman? Any guesses or any answers? If you hesitate to, I will say it is the name Jesus. I was introduced to Jesus as a personal savior when I was 17 years old. After that, my life transformed. Within 1 year, I stood first in the state of Karnataka. And this zeal for excellence was born in me. And every step, I had this higher consciousness. So even in mud of Sri Perumbudur, I was crying out, Jesus, Jesus. And I think it is that Purushottaman is the best. When I asked him, what is his name, Thambi in Peranna, he said Purushottaman. That enabled me to connect with my 17-year encounter. Purushottaman means the best man. So I'm looking for the best man in me and in you. And we keep finding them here and there and everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm an IPS aspirant. You have inspired me a lot all throughout this day. Looking forward to meet you in person again, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you, and may you succeed in joining the civil service.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. I'm from Wales Institute. My name is Karishma. I wanted to know if the environment that you were in, all the misery that you were in when you were lying on the deathbed, that made you think of equilibrium thinking or made you who you are today. Because given an environment where you're trying your best to be alive is a lot to come up from. And I wanted to know how you came out of it and became who you are today, and like the person who gives inspiration to others, who gives a positive thought process to others, and how to overcome a lot of things like anxiety, etc. I wanted to know what made you who you are today, like what thought process pushed you forward, and like how you became who you are today.
So I told you at 81 I discovered Be At It. 91 this incident happened when I was a young IPS ASP. So at that time I had not even discovered Beat It. The whole thought process was not born. But Be At It was there, that concept. But while I was lying there, that was too far from my thoughts. I was thinking, such an evil world this is. That is one of my first thoughts. Another thought was, some thoughts, negativity were there. Like I said, how did God allow this to happen? Even though God in His foreknowledge knows everything that is going to happen. So, but after a few weeks, I got very deep answers to all these questions. When a friend visited me in Apollo as I was recovering, and he said a group of women was studying a portion in scripture which said, do not be anxious or stressed out when you undergo fiery trials, because this was a fiery trial. And because your faith, which is much more precious than gold, should be tested in fire, even as gold is tested in fire. And so the women went to the goldsmith, and the goldsmith was asked, till what point do you keep the gold in the fire? You know why they asked? They said, we want to know till what point God will allow us to go through such fire, ordeals of fire. And the goldsmith said, it's very simple. As soon as I see my image in the gold, I'll stop burnishing it in the fire. So that answered my deep question. Actually, God wanted His face to be seen in my life, in everything that I did. So I stopped focusing on my career and I started being a positive person, as you told. Running even high negativity. This is the most negative experience a human being can go through, most traumatic experience. So this became a defining moment in my life. And it led to my refining, constant refining. I cannot say I'm fully refined even today. The same, the flesh that it was before is still in me, but then the spirit, mind and body has got a great quantum leap after that incident. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any more questions? We'll take this question and then we'll wind up.
Good morning, sir. So you had always been a police officer, so you would personally know the stress police go through in their occupation.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Can you repeat?
Yes, sir. So you had always been a police officer, so you know what a police officer go through as in their occupation as stress, and it changes their behavior, and a lot of things happen in their lives. So how can police officers implement or inculcate this EQ thinking in their lives so as to help them in their stress?
Yeah, this in my various assignments, some of them were teaching assignments or principal of police training college. I did research with equilibrium thinking with women SIs about your age. And I published a paper on an international health journal. They published it as an alternative holistic therapy. American doctors publish it online. So they found that it is an alternative holistic therapy for the stress and for the human mind, issues of the human mind. So I began teaching it to all trainees wherever I went, even in intelligence, which normally you don't involve in training. This equilibrium thinking was taught to police officers. Then when there was a gender sensitization exercise launched by Jayalalitha for the entire police force after some incidents of gender related issues, this concept was accepted by the then nodal officer, and the CD of 15 minutes was played to all the police officers across the police personnel, all ranks across the state. So that time itself I got feedback. This is a very scientific, rational thought process. So, and many people wrote back saying it helped them overcome stress, anger and other issues. When I launched social justice tea parties across the state in all panchayats, 40,000 villages. This is including, primary panchayats, small villages too. The women wrote back saying it helped us a great deal in our dealing with even rural people face stress. And so it helps both public as well as police personnel. In police, as you know, as you said, occupational hazards are high. So even when I was DGP CBCID, I told you the current leaderships are so threatened. They even prevented my book from being released. So you can imagine how much stress I went through. They stopped the book being released by putting pressure on my bosses. So even at the highest level, we face all kinds of occupational hazard. When I started Friends of Police movement, successive attempts were made by senior officers to stop it because the idea threatened them. All this creates stress for us. But this be at it, beat it concept keeps me powered. So even when they withdrew the government support, which I had got with great difficulty from the Chief Minister, I was not discouraged. I said, okay, this is another godsend. Now it is an NGO working under me. So we fed thousands of people during the pandemic, lockdown. And FOP won not only the Queen's Award, it won the Scotch Award last year, the year before I retired. So stress is always there, occupational hazards are always there. It is like carbon dioxide, it is always there in the air. You don't enjoy it, but you breathe it out, keep beating it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, from his talk for the day, I was able to collect few very lovely axioms. Every humanity is made for greatness. Mind is a keystone for my development. Greatness is in overcoming your own weakness. What more? Aren't these absolutely inspiring us? Yes, he just came today, he stood in front of us and gave us so many axioms which is actually very motivating. So I was just thinking when I was being called to give the word of thanks, let me do it through this Philippisms itself. When I went through the book, I could see few Philippisms, few maxims I can say, which really impressed and of course motivated me. One of my mentors actually gifted me this book, and let me tell you, it has been a boon in my life. There is a maxim which sir has very well written in that. Faith is an anytime ATM. Yes, what is ATM? It's an anytime miracle. Yes, today, by the grace of the Almighty, we have had this miracle today. So let me first place my gratitude to the Almighty for giving us this wonderful session with our honorable chief guest, Dr. Pradeep V. Philip. Secondly, I would also like to thank our beloved principal and the bursar for enabling us to conduct this workshop for the 2 days and for their great support throughout. The next, I place my gratitude before our dear beloved head of the department, Dr. Ansuman Raboni, who has been helping us throughout, taking all the nuances of the workshop and delegating it to each and every one of our colleagues and helping us work in a very cooperative manner too. Thank you, Dr. Ansuman, for this. It would not be nice if I don't mention a word about my colleagues. Each and every colleague, right from Dr. Madanareka, Dr. Vijay Devnesan, Dr. Kalyani, and Dr. Milton. They've been together with me throughout in taking up each and every task and helping us to organize this wonderful program for the day. And of course, my lovely students. Our students are the real strength of our department. Thank you, each and every student, right from the chairman of the department to all the students here. And I also thank each and every college who has actually sent students for this workshop. I'm sure you will all be benefited through this workshop. Let me tell you again from the maxims of Sir, it's a beautiful one which will actually enthrall and it will elevate you all to the greatest heights. It says, everything that happens inside you, like your thoughts, emotions, self-talk, is your root activity. And everything that happens outside is your fruit activity. Speech, actions, results, behavior, and achievements. Your root activities determine your fruit activities. Believe me, students, the 3,333 maxims that Sir has put forth in his book is amazing. It is very useful for each and every one, and I think I'm very sure that all of you should have this book with you. So once again, Sir, I thank you for giving us this opportunity to hear a vibrant talk which has surely enlightened each and every student present here. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. And I thank all of you for your time and patience. We are extremely privileged to have you all here today. Thank you all. Now we will have a break from 11 to 11:30, and the next panel will start at 11:30. You can have your refreshments on the right side of the hall.